Hi friends, I am Dr. Meenal and I will be talking on Cohn syndrome. Cohn syndrome is one of the common causes of endocrine hypertension. The prevalence is somewhere around 5 to 12%. But before jumping and talking directly about the Cohn syndrome, I would be giving you a brief background about the adrenals, the hormones secreted by the adrenal glands, and the normal physiology. So, the overflow of the entire talk would be the anatomy of the gland, then moving from there, the development, physiology, and then coming to primary hyperaldosteronism, right? So we begin. Talking about the anatomy, the glands, the adrenal glands, they are two in number, located on the top of kidneys on either side, that is, they are suprarenal in location. Each gland weighs somewhere around 6 to 11 grams. Adrenal gland has two components, the cortex and the medulla. The outer cortex has three layers, that is glomerulosa, fasciculata, and the reticularis. GFR. And that is the order they are placed. The outermost is the glomerulosa and the innermost is the reticularis. In between is the fasciculata. Arterial supply from outside to inside, that is from subcapsular cortex to the medulla. Venous drainage, right side doing the right thing. Right will do the right. So right adrenal vein draining into the inferior vena cava and the left adrenal vein draining into the left adrenal vein. The left adrenal vein draining into the left renal vein and then draining into the inferior vena cava. So that is about the anatomy. Development wise, adrenal glands, they originate from the urogenital ridge. So they arise in coordination or in combo with gonads and the kidneys, and they separate from the gonads and the kidneys at around 6th week of gestation, which is almost the same time when the sexual differentiation takes place. Coming to the physiology, the steroids that are secreted from the adrenal glands are mineralocorticoids, glucocorticoids, and the adrenal androgens. So the outermost layer, that is glomerulosa, is responsible for secreting mineralocorticoids. And the middle layer, fasciculata, secretes glucocorticoids. And the innermost layer, that is reticularis, that releases or secretes adrenal androgens. Now, the hormones produced by the medulla, that is the adrenal medulla, the inner part of the gland, are the catecholamines. So these are the various steroids or the hormones coming from the adrenal glands. This is the cholesterol pathway, the steroid synthesis pathway, and this is the most important physiological pathway that we need to remember in the adrenals. There is no escape from this chain. We know that the cholesterol is the beginning point, and from cholesterol, the various steroids are synthesized. Cholesterol is first converted into pregnenolone. This pregnenolone is converted into 17-hydroxypregnenolone, which is then converted into DHEA, that is dehydroepiandrosterone, and that leads to the synthesis of androstenedione and the adrenal androgens. Pregnenolone can also get converted into progesterone, and this progesterone can then make 17-hydroxyprogesterone, or the 17-hydroxypregnenolone can get converted into 17-OHP, that is 17-hydroxyprogesterone, which then gives us the glucocorticoids, that is the cortisol. Or what we are focusing today is the aldosterone pathway. So talking here, cholesterol making pregnenolone. From pregnenolone, we get converted into progesterone. Progesterone then gives us the DOCA, that is deoxycorticosterone acetate or the deoxycorticosterone, which gives us corticosterone and 18-hydroxycorticosterone getting converted into finally aldosterone. So this three pathways, the aldosterone, glucocorticoid, and the adrenal androgens, the three pathways, they all begin with cholesterol entering into the adrenals. From here, we talk of another important concept in endocrinology, that is a regulatory concept or the negative feedback loop concept. Any hormone is secreted, it is influencing in a negative feedback manner its parent hormone. So The glucocorticoid secretion is under the control of hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, that is HPA, whereas mineralocorticoid synthesis and release is under the control of RAS, that is renin angiotensin aldosterone system. But both the systems are negative feedback loops. Talking about glucocorticoids to begin with, we all know that glucocorticoid synthesis is under the inhibitory feedback control of the HPA, that is hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Hypothalamus releases corticotropin releasing hormone, that is CRH, which is released from hypothalamus in response to stress, which can be endogenous or exogenous. Now, this CRH stimulates the cleavage of POMC, that is pro-opiomelanocortin. Now, pro-opiomelanocortin, which is a 241 amino acid polypeptide chain, is cleaved by pro-convertase 1, yielding, that is giving 39 amino acid peptide ACTH. These number of amino acids we need to remember because they are very important. So 241 amino acid chain is pro-opiomelanocortin, and from that we get 39 amino acid peptide chain ACTH. ACTH is released by corticotrope cells in the anterior pituitary. Now this ACTH and CRH both are released in a pulsatile manner. That is, they are not regularly present in the same concentration in the serum, but their serum concentration keeps varying and the release is in a pulsatile waveform pattern. And as a result, they affect the cortisol release from the adrenals also in a pulsatile manner, and the cortisol release also follows a particular circadian pattern, that is a 24-hour cycle. Circadian means 24-hour rhythm. So in the 24 hours, the peak is in the early morning hours, just before getting up, just before awakening, whereas they dip down by evening and are almost very low by midnight. So this is the pictorial presentation of all the entire talk, that the circadian rhythm is respected and the release is in response to stressors, which can be endogenous or exogenous. The neurotransmitters, they affect the hypothalamus, and from hypothalamus, the suprachiasmatic nucleus releases the corticotropin releasing hormone. This corticotropin releasing hormone then reaches the anterior pituitary, where it causes the release of adrenocorticotropic hormone. This adrenocorticotropic hormone then affects the fasciculator layer of the adrenal cortex, and as a result, adrenal cortex releases the cortisol, and this cortisol has a negative feedback inhibition at the level of anterior pituitary, as well as it has a negative feedback inhibition at the level of hypothalamus. So this is about the HPA, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, controlling the release of glucocorticoid or the cortisol from the adrenal glands. Now coming to mineralocorticoid. Mineralocorticoid release is not directly under the control of HPA or the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Mineralocorticoid axis is under the control of RAS, that is renin angiotensin aldosterone system. When we talk of RAS or the renin angiotensin aldosterone system, as the name suggests, the important components are renin. Renin is released from the juxtaglomerular cells, that is the macula densa of the proximal convoluted tubules, that is the JG cells, the juxtaglomerular cells. This renin, then renin angiotensin, so renin angiotensin aldosterone system. Now this renin, which is released from the juxtaglomerular cells, goes and cleaves angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1 in the liver. So from angiotensinogen, we get angiotensin 1 by the action of renin in the liver. Now this angiotensin 1 is converted by ACE, that is angiotensin converting enzyme, to angiotensin 2. Now this conversion of angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2 in the lungs, this takes place in the lungs, And this angiotensin 2 then binds and activates the angiotensin 2 type 1 receptors. Right? So we don't have to confuse things here. This one is for the type 1 receptors, and this is activated by angiotensin 2. And angiotensin 2 comes from angiotensin 1 by the action of angiotensin converting enzyme in the lungs. And this angiotensin 1 comes from angiotensinogen by the action of renin in the liver. And renin comes from juxtaglomerular cells in the kidneys. And now this activation of angiotensin 2 type 1 receptors, angiotensin 2 binding receptor type 1, this enzyme, this receptor activates the release of aldosterone from the adrenal cortex, that is from the glomerulosa layer. And then adrenals causes vasoconstriction, causing rise in intra-arterial pressure or the blood pressure. And thus again this in turn causes a negative suppression, feedback suppression of the renin release, that no further renin is required. So this is how intricately the renin angiotensin aldosterone system is working. Having a look in the pictorial manner and a graphical manner, you will find that the circulating blood volume is the primary factor which is responsible for the action of renin, that is release of renin. So whenever you find that the renal perfusion is compromised or the renal perfusion pressure is decreased, there is release of renin. And this renin coming from juxtaglomerular cells acts on angiotensinogen to cause conversion of angiotensin 1. Now this angiotensin 1 by the action of ACE is converted into angiotensin 2. This angiotensin 2 acts on the angiotensin 2 receptor type 1 to cause release of aldosterone from the zona glomerulosa. And this aldosterone then causes the release of it causes the retention of sodium and causes excretion of potassium. And there is at the same time water retention along with sodium and loss of hydrogen ions along with potassium. So the entire picture is with hyperaldosteronism. If we have, as you can see, you will get what? More of sodium, that is hypernatremia, loss of potassium, that is hypokalemia, along with loss of hydrogen ions. So that will cause metabolic alkalosis. And at the same time, because of water retention, there will be a suppression of renin release. So low renin, high aldosterone, hypernatremia, hypokalemia, hypertension with metabolic alkalosis would be something that would give you a clue towards the presence of hyperaldosteronism. So just giving you a quick review of what we can discuss when we are talking adrenals. If it is a condition of glucocorticoid excess, we will be talking of Cushing syndrome. If it is a condition of glucocorticoid deficiency, we will be talking of Addison's. If it is a condition of mineralocorticoid excess, we will be talking of primary hyperaldosteronism. And it can also be a condition of androgen excess that also can give rise to conditions like hirsutism and virilization in women and precocity in men. But keeping our topic very confined today to mineralocorticoid excess, what are the various causes of mineralocorticoid excess? The total prevalence, if we talk of mineralocorticoid excess as a cause of endocrine hypertension or as a cause of hypertension, the prevalence is somewhere around 5 to 12%. And the most common cause of hyperaldosteronism is primary, that is primary hyperaldosteronism is the most common cause of mineralocorticoid excess. And amongst the primary hyperaldosteronism, bilateral micronodular adrenal hyperplasia is the most common cause. Second cause is a unilateral adrenal adenoma or Conn syndrome. So coming to the topic, that is Conn syndrome, it is a state of aldosterone secreting adrenal adenoma. Then we also have glucocorticoid remediable hyperaldosteronism, which is a genetic condition. A familial condition, that is GRA, glucocorticoid remediable hyperaldosteronism.